Good evening, everybody. Thank you again for joining our Salt Talks tonight. Um, I can hardly believe we're at the end of September. We did a transition planning series the month of September, and this is the last of the transition planning. It's called Preparing for Transition Success. So we've been talking about several topics throughout the month. We started with the County Board of Developmental Disabilities, talking about that transition to adulthood. We kicked off the month with that. What happens when that school bus no longer stops? What are you facing when that transition takes place? And then this we had a session on Disability Benefits 101, talking about Social Security and what to prepare for when your child turns 18. And we had Project Life and Search last week. So now this tonight, I thought to properly follow in with all those is when you get into the high school and your son or daughter is in high school and you're going through the IEP, that graduation date's coming really quick. It comes faster than um, you're prepared for usually. But as you're doing your IEPs, start thinking about, will my child be looking at employment? Have they had a part-time job, during high school? What do I need to do for them to continue beyond high school? What kind of for employment success? Maybe you're thinking about doing a post-secondary education. How do you prepare for that? What does your IEPs, what do you do for the steps to get to these points? So tonight we invited, I have OOD, which stands for Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. And we have Racheal and Tabbatha to speak on that. And then we also have Charlotte here from College to Careers. So I am going to turn it over to um, I'm not sure, Tabbatha or
So Charlotte will be going first. I do want to let you
Charlotte.
guys
Okay.
know Racheal is having a little bit of technical difficulty. So if we get to
Okay.
her section, I will cover what she was planning to if she's
Okay.
still able to unmute at that point.
Okay. And I made you co-host, Charlotte, if you need to share your screen.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, my name is Charlotte Bass, and I am a college to careers counselor. My home base is Clark State uh, College, but I'm also the dedicated counselor for um, Central State University, Wilberforce University, and I also assist with Wright State University as well, and a couple of other schools too. So basically what the college to careers counselor does is we of course provide vocational counseling and guidance, financial support, support navigating your academics, connection to an employer network, internships and permanent employment, career exploration and counseling, excuse me, resume and interview preparation, and then we also offer additional advocacy and support. Part of the goal for them having a dedicated counselor to certain schools is to help the student navigate through through college. So what that looks like is once you enroll at a college and you're determined eligible for services, um, we can help you with some of those bridge support services, such as have a provider assist you through navigating signing up for disability services. We can provide things like tutoring, rehab technology. And what that looks like is that we would have a provider come out and do an assessment, and then to see what kind of equipment would help you be successful while you're in school and then once you're out in the workplace. Our main goal is to help you stay in school and successfully complete your degree so that you'll be prepared to go out into the workplace once you are done with college. While you're in college, though, we can also help with non-permanent job development services as well, such as resume writing, mock interviews, um, helping you, assisting you with filling out applications, and just trying to help you gain experience while you're in school, so that you'll be more prepared for whatever your goal is once you get done with school. Um, what I would suggest to any student that is thinking about going, any high school student that is thinking about going to college, is to, of course, tour the school, see if they're going to have services that fits your needs. Talk to the academic advisors. Make sure that they have accommodations that would be beneficial to you. Um, and so that's about the gist of it. Um, does anybody have any questions for me?
So far, I don't see any questions in the chat box.
Okay.
But as we go through the rest of the presentations, if you think of a question specifically for Charlotte, you can type it in the chat box, and then we can address it as our session progresses here.
All right. So I'm going to take over a couple of sections regarding the post-secondary education and planning for that that aren't as specific to the College to Careers program. So one thing we have been asked to go over is, what about planning as far as your IEP when thinking about post-secondary education? One of the things I would say is most important is to make sure that your child is really getting familiar with their accommodations. When you go to a post-secondary institution, students are required to ask for those accommodations and get those set up through the Department of Accessibility or Disability Services. And being familiar with them will help those students advocate to their professors directly if they say get extended time, if they get a quiet testing environment, or if they get assistance with note taking. Making sure that we know how to advocate for those accommodations is really, really important. And one way that you can support this, if you're working with OOD, is through pre-employment transition services. And one of those specifically is instruction and self-advocacy, and really being able to speak up for yourself in a professional setting, understanding your rights, your responsibilities in the community. I think it's one that's so important that when I send students for pre-employment services, it's usually the first one I start with. Another thing to prepare for post-secondary education, the Department of Education and Workforce has a really useful career pathways tool that can guide what classes might be beneficial if you're looking at a particular job, such as, say, like medical assisting. If you go on their website, they have information about how much you can make in that field in this state, what typical education is needed, and it will even play out which classes you need to take at what level, starting as early as 7th grade and up through your post-secondary education. So it can be a really useful tool to see if you are on track with where you need to be in the time frame that makes most sense.
Tabitha, I was just going to ask, you mentioned the website. Where do you have a link to that, or a reference link?
Yes, I can put that in the chat in just a second.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Racheal has joined via phone, so I think that was the end of my part for right now. And I'll be coming back to talk more about our third option once Racheal is finished with employment.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I fixed it. I was having technical difficulties on the computer, but I think I figured it out. I'm like panicking over here. So yay, I'm here. Okay, so let me pull up my notes. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the first section is what should the IEP include when planning for employment or self-employment. So just a few things would be, I always tell teachers to include like a summary of what students are working on with us. So if we're doing pre-employment transition services with our students, which are pre-employment transition services are 5 different services that help our clients, build their vocational skills, do some career exploration activities, just kind of start to build their employability skills and, do some exploration and things. So, put a summary of that on the IEP. talking about their future plans, like, are we going to help them find a part-time job while they're in school? Also, I always share with teachers the summer youth work experience report. So when our clients do a summer work experience, we typically get a report at the end of that. So I share that with, the intervention specialist so they can put that information on the IEP and kind of also use that to help plan for the future. Then my next section is just talking about how do we know that our child is ready for work. So I always start out by just kind of talking with them at the planning meeting, like, do you know what type of job you're interested in? Do you know if you want to work part-time or full-time? And, if they're not really sure of those things, then that's when I say, maybe we should do some pre-employment transition services to kind of help you work on those, developing those skills, and doing some exploration, kind of like what I mentioned with pre-employment services. So that's kind of where I start, just getting them to explore that a little bit. And then, I also ask them if they've done any like volunteer work. If so, did they like it? Could they see themselves maybe doing that in the future? Um, and also a lot of students are in transition programs. So a lot of the ones I work with, especially, are in like super senior transition programs where they're doing all different types of work experiences out in the community. So that's really helpful because, it gives them a lot of different job experience in different environments. So, I'll just kind of talk with them, have a conversation about like, what types of jobs did you like that you're doing? Are there any you don't like? Um, and for our younger students, that's when, doing the summer work experience can really benefit them because they'll get some different work experiences in the community. And that, I've really seen that help them figure out, like, is this something I like? Like, a lot of times we'll do a summer work program and, my students are like, this is great, I could see myself doing this. And other times it's like, no, I never want to do this job again in my life. So that really helps out. And then also talking about transportation. So that's a big, that can be a barrier for some of our clients. If parents are working, they're not really interested in driving, they're not haven't used public transportation before. So that's where I have that conversation of, before you're going to get a job, we need to make sure that you have transportation to get to and from that job. So then we talk about, is that going to be travel training where we train you to use the RTA, or, is driving an interest? And then if driving is an interest, then having a conversation about, if we help you get your driver's license, will you have a car to drive? Will you have family support, to be able to practice while you're working with us to get your driver's license, because that practice can really help. So definitely having a conversation surrounding transportation. And then, kind of just going back to our summer youth work experience program, that's a really good program for, clients who are not quite sure if they want to work yet. It gives them that, couple weeks, up to 5 weeks in the summer of trying out a job, and then, having a good idea of, did it go well? Can I handle work during the school year? And then also just thinking about, always have a conversation about, if they're able to handle their responsibilities in school and also carry a part-time job. So, sometimes we might help someone find a job and then it's kind of interfering too much with school. And then we kind of determine maybe it's not the best time for them to be working right now. So then at that point, we'll kind of pull back and maybe try helping them find a job the next year, maybe when they're more ready. And then, talking about services that will support, our children as they're ready to start employment. So I mentioned pre-employment transition services a lot, but that's really the starting point for a lot of my clients. Especially when someone comes to OOD and they're 14 or 15 years old, they're not quite ready for work yet, but, they still want to start building those skills and, gaining experiences. So that's where we can work through those 5 categories. Instruction and self-advocacy, which is, really kind of working on their communication skills. Counseling on post-secondary, which is really exploring, college and different options for that. And then there's a work readiness training, which is, just kind of talking about meeting employer expectations, talking about like appropriate use of social media, just kind of understanding all of those work skills, having, an appropriate email address, professional voicemail greeting, all those like small details, looking into practicing like writing a resume, filling out job applications. And then the last two categories, job exploration counseling and work-based learning, those are the ones that really focus on, let's do some career exploration assessments to kind of see what jobs you're interested in. And then let's do some informational interviews and then kind of move on to doing some work site tours. So like getting them into some of these places that they're interested in working and doing some job shadowing, and just kind of talking about those different options. So that's really where a lot of our students start. Um, and then our summer work experience program, typically students do that when they're 16, although, if someone is close to 16 and they're starting the program and they're, still 15, then they can still participate. They just have to have a work permit from the school. So that has definitely happened before. I really find that a lot of times 14 and 15-year-olds aren't quite ready for that work experience. So they want to focus more on the pre-employment transition services and then maybe do a summer work experience after their sophomore or junior year. That's a service that's only offered one time typically. So we just want to make sure we don't do it too early and that it's the right timing and everything. And the summer youth work experience program, they can do up until they finish their senior year of high school or when they finish their transition program. So if they finish their senior year, whenever they accept their diploma, if they're not yet 22, then they can do it up until the summer after that time that they take their diploma. And then non-permanent job development is a service that we provide to help students get a part-time job while they're enrolled in high school. We can also provide that service for our college students as well, just helping them find that non-permanent job. And then, of course, job coaching. Once they get a job, we can assist them with learning their job and providing some job coaching at the beginning. And then travel training, like I mentioned earlier, working with them to learn to use the public, transportation, make sure they can get to the bus stop, know how to transfer buses, read bus schedules, pretty much like everything that would be involved in that we can assist with for travel training. And then, I also like to mention that us, as OOD counselors, we can attend IEP meetings. So we typically attend them for our current clients, but we can also attend IEP meetings if there's any students out there who are not yet connected with us. And maybe, intervention specialists are interested in getting them connected or families are interested. And as long as everyone's on board, we can come to an IEP meeting and talk about services and give them more information. Then we can get an intake meeting scheduled. So the final section on my piece is talking about different work options that are available while students are still in school and after high school. So we can really assist with finding any job in the community that's a good fit. We do have employer partners, which are, just employers that that we work closely with, who we have a good relationship with. So we have, a talent sourcing coordinator who, if someone applies for one of our employer partners, we let them know, and then, they can follow up and try to, ensure that they get an interview. So it just sometimes helps with having them, make sure they look over our clients' applications and, give them an interview. So it doesn't necessarily guarantee a job, but it can guarantee an interview for sure. Then things to take into consideration when looking for jobs is just, what are students interested in? What are their strengths? So, if they're not interested in working in food service, then, we can avoid that, look other places. If they need a job that's, more in a quiet environment, you're just really trying to find something that would be a really good match for them. And, sometimes we place someone in a job and it's their first job and it's not always a good match. So, we always have the ability to, reconsider and then, maybe place them somewhere else. So typically, in high school, they're doing non-permanent job development if they're interested in working. So we, place them in a job, and then they'll have job coaching, like I mentioned. And then we typically keep cases open when, until they graduate. So even if they're working, because the thought is that once, they graduate and obtain their diploma, then they're going to want to maybe find a job with more hours, higher pay. So then we can provide that job development again to help them find that more full-time job, or, more long-term job with higher pay. And that is pretty much my section. And let me know if anyone has any questions.
So there's no questions in the chat yet, but I wanted to ask a question so some of the parents understand too. Now, I just wanted to find out when you have I liked what you said about for like during the IEPs, if a individual before they actually, if I understand right, before they actually become eligible, you could set in an IEP prior and then
Absolutely.
look at eligibility later. Is that what I understand?
Yes,
As
yes. So if the parents are on board with us being invited to an IEP meeting, we can attend. Typically, what I do is I'll attend the IEP. I'll stay for the whole meeting, talk about OOD a little bit at the end, and then get them scheduled for an intake.
Okay. I totally recommend all parents. Because I went through the IEP process, the transition, and I didn't have OOD with me. I totally recommend having that extra set of ears during the meeting and have someone that's walking. Like if OOD gets to know your child when they're 14 or 15, they will know your child then as they transition into that job force. They'll know what their likes and dislikes are. So I highly recommend getting connected with OOD. Now, one other question I had too was when so you meet the parents and then the child becomes eligible with OOD, um, and they go up through to their graduation. Does their case stay open when they transition from that high school temporary job position and then they go into start looking for that permanent job, their case stays open throughout that time period. Is that correct?
Correct. So typically we would keep their case open until they are completely finished with high school. They, accept that diploma, and then we place them in, a more long-term job. Then we would provide that job coaching again. Then after the job coaching is finished, we check in for 90 days prior to closing their case. So I always tell all my families, I will not close a case for someone who's still in school unless the family tells me to.
And that was our experience too. They, check several times, how are they doing in the workforce? They really check to make sure that case closed. Now, when the case is closed, doesn't mean another case can't be reopened. So you understand that, I mean, once you're connected with OOD, once you're settled into a job and you're connected with OOD and the case closes, your child may want to change a job again, and then you can open a case again. There's no time frame. Like if they decide they don't like it, I mean, they can connect once your case closed, they can reconnect with you 5 months, 6 months, a year. Is there any time frame like they can't reconnect with you within?
Nope, there are
No.
no
Okay.
time frames. And I forgot to mention we can take clients as soon as they're 14. So, once they're 14, and then after that, there's no more age limits or, time limits or anything.
Awesome. That's all the questions I had so far. And I don't see any more in the chat box just yet, but I've connected with OOD for many years. So, I mean, we've had opened and shut cases. So I'm asking questions so parents are aware that how you can interact with them and so they understand. Okay. Thank you, Racheal.
Yep.
All right. So I've got our third section, which is about what to do if your child isn't quite ready for employment or post-secondary education. So when I'm thinking about this, I'm really thinking about when we're exiting high school or exiting transition services around the age of 22. You definitely have options. And Ohio being an employment first state, we want to exhaust all options to help your child reach their employment goal in a competitive, integrated environment, meaning we're making a competitive wage and that we are working around people without disabilities and with disabilities in the community. If your child around the age of 22, when they're exiting those school based services, is not ready for employment, this will likely have been a conversation with your IEP team, with OOD, with your County Board of Developmental Disability. This will likely have been an ongoing conversation for some time. However, what we want to do is also make sure that we have tried community work experiences to see like what are the areas of need. Are those areas of need something that we can continue working on over a period of time? Are those issues that we're having in a workplace maybe we need a high level of supervision, or is it something where it's a really big safety thing? There can be plenty of reasons why someone might not be ready at one particular moment to work in a competitive integrated environment. If that would be your child, once we have exhausted all options, we may look at partnering with your County Board of Developmental Disabilities to see if your child may be appropriate for possibly something like a group employment in a highly structured, highly supervised environment. If we are under the age of 25, there are some additional steps that we have to go through before considering that as an option, because we operate under the premise that everyone can start by working in the community unless we have exhausted all of those options first. This would include ensuring that we had some kind of transition program in high school, maybe a work study program, that we did some of the OOD pre-employment transition services, that we've received career counseling on available resources in the community, and then that we have not been able to reach an employment outcome with OOD in a reasonable time frame. So those community work experiences, we can partner with your high school to see what kind of work study experiences were had in high school, what kind of supports were needed during that time. If your child is attending a transition to work programs such as Project Life, Project Search, Transition Living Classroom in Warren County, we will partner with them to see what supports are in place through the IEP, what level of supervision was needed, and we'll collaborate with your team. And I hesitate to give really, really specific information here because when stuff like this comes up, every situation is very different. Every child is different.
There is a question. There's a question,
Okay.
Tabitha. Can you explain the employment first piece? And that was
Sure.
fine because I let's see, it was is it Iona? Just employment first. It's nice. I'm glad you stopped because sometimes things that we hear over and over again, not everybody has heard it for the first time. And when we've heard it for the first time, we're like, what? What's that? So you're fine with this question. So go ahead, Tabitha, if you can explain the employment first.
Sure. So employment first is essentially the idea that we want to have individuals with disabilities as much as possible be working in a competitive environment, meaning they're out in the community, they're making the same wage that someone else without a disability would make at that level. So if your child were to be starting as a cashier at $12 an hour, someone without a disability should also be starting at about $12 an hour. This was put in place 2012, 2013, through a partnership with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities and then the State Department of Developmental Disabilities. And this was to ensure that we weren't recommending individuals with developmental disabilities go into more of those highly structured, highly supervised group experiences without having made absolutely sure that they weren't appropriate, and weren't able to do that competitive employment first. And this is just to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and making sure that we're not recommending something that's just not an appropriate fit. I hope that clarifies it.
Yeah, if that let me know if you need more information. Don't hesitate to ask because it's all great. All questions are good. Go
Absolutely. When thinking about your options, definitely talk to your OOD counselor. Any contacts that you have at your county board of developmental disabilities, a support coordinator, if you have a transition coordinator, start talking about to them if you have concerns that your child may not be ready by the time that they're accepting their high school diploma. And one thing I do want to emphasize is that even if someone is not ready at that times when they're exiting high school for competitive employment, is not to say that in a year, 2 years, 5 years, that they wouldn't be ready. Individuals grow and change over time. So just like I think Racheal said, you can reapply for services at any time, even if you were closed and went more into that structured group setting. If you guys feel, your team feels that it's an appropriate time to look for a competitive job. And that can happen at any point throughout a person's life if they're interested in working. One thing I like to tell the families I work with is that if we've made you eligible once, we can make you eligible again. So come back to us at any point you feel it's appropriate. And just want to make sure I covered. A couple things we could look at in terms of specific services. Say if your child has not had a community work experience through a transition program, a high school work study, we have something called community-based assessments that can identify if a job is going to be a good fit for an individual. We work with providers who will provide job coaching throughout the entire time that someone completes one of these. And one where I've had someone think they might be interested in stalking, but wasn't sure if it was going to be a good fit. They were able to do a 2-week experience at a bargain hunt in Hamilton, where they worked about 4 hours a day for 5 days a week over that 2-week period. And then we got back together as a team and said, okay, here's where we needed support. Here's what I liked. Here's what I didn't like. Okay, is this going to be a good fit? That is an option that we have. If there are also specific behaviors that maybe are causing a barrier to employment, another option that we have is something called a work adjustment. And this is structured fairly similarly to the community-based assessment. It's in a community work experience. It's structured to be with a job coach, but we're working on improving a particular behavior versus a specific job task. And if we can improve that behavior, then that shows that we can still look at that competitive integrated employment. And I'm not sure if anyone else has any questions. I'm happy to take whatever comes up.
One of the things, so if someone goes into, okay, let's start just with a job situation, and maybe they found they need some assistance in the sense of technology. Do you help identify that or help them get hooked up or get the proper equipment that would be needed, or service or device or whatever that may be needed for that particular area?
Yes, actually, that is definitely something we can help with. Last year, I was actually able to hook someone up with a provider who was able to connect someone's cochlear implant to a headset that was compatible compatible with it for working a drive-through. So that's just one example that I thought was really cool. We can also do ergonomic work setup. So if you needed a very specific like computer setup, if you needed something like lower back support, if you needed a mat, even just to stand on to support your back, we can do stuff like that. We also do high-tech vehicle modifications when it is needed based on someone's disability. That's a pretty extensive process, I will say, but it is definitely something we can do when appropriate.
And I believe, I'm trying to look back, when you're talking about transportation, um, you will help with assessments, or do you
Mhm.
help with assessments to determine if your child may or may not be able to get their driver's license? Is there like you help with those assessments or help them connect with somebody that can determine if their child wants to try to go that direction?
Just to make sure I understand, we're talking about just doing like assessments for like learning how to drive if we're able
Hmm.
to learn. Yes, that is definitely something we can do. We have several partners in the greater Cincinnati, Dayton area that we partner with to complete occupational therapy evaluations, measuring response time, hand-eye coordination, things of that nature. And they'll give specific recommendations on things they can work on, and if they agree that that individual is appropriate to learn how to drive and would be safe doing so.
Does anybody have any questions? I just wanted to try to point out that they are there to help you, and every different levels when you starting at 14 and you're working up through going into that transition, whether it be the workplace, and even if you have an open case or closed case, someone can say, "Hey, I'm at this job, something's not working right, or I'm having trouble." Go back to OOD, and they'll help you with what is needed to be successful or try to be successful. And I just want to make sure parents understand you can reach out to these services, for that support.
Yes, and I will say I will have parents reach out to me with just general questions, even if they haven't been on my caseload in 2, 3 years. We are always here to be a resource. You can reapply for services if you're looking for a new job, if something changed about your current job and you need more intensive support to stay stable in that job. If you're looking for a promotion, anything like that, as long as you're interested in working, we can work with you to meet your needs.
And does that applies also if they don't go for the workforce, they're going into the college setting or post-secondary, if they find they need assistance with a device as well, the same idea. Um, are you able to help them at that point when they go into the college and, for college kind of direction?
I think I'm gonna punt this to Charlotte because I
To
think she works
Charlotte.
with college students more than I
Yeah.
do.
Yes, absolutely. That's when we would do a rehabilitation technology evaluation. So we have several partners that would, and then of course the individual would choose what partner would be the best fit for them, and they would actually come to that individual and do an assessment, and then send us a report of what adaptive equipment would help them be successful in college and then eventually in the workforce as well. So yes, that is available also.
Do you know, Charlotte, what kind of technology has it? What's to give the maybe the participants here an idea? What kind of technology, like what's the most common that's requested? Do you have a idea of what's been, you
It
know,
can be like like a laptop that has like adaptive equipment. Um, I have one student that is in a wheelchair, as an example, and he's staying on campus, and he needed a specialized shower chair. Um, it can be an Alexis voice thing. I mean, it's just a variety of different things that we're able to offer to our participants to help them be successful. I have one student that has a severe speech impediment, and so we have her getting evaluated now to see what type of equipment that is available to help her um, be successful in college, and then eventually she's wanting to be a teacher. That's what we're in the process of doing now for her. So it's just whatever that individual's needs are. Um, I'm always surprised by what is available out there that can help our individuals be successful. So every day that we are doing these evaluations, and I'm learning something new as well, because obviously it's not me doing the rehab tech evaluation. We have experts that we partner with that is experienced in those type of things, that goes out and do those things for us.
Great, thank you. Because I know that's, sometimes it's one of the concerns, like as a parent, my child has trouble with communication. They can hear what you're saying, but maybe communication is difficult. So,
Mhm.
or vice versa, maybe they have trouble hearing. There's so many different levels of needs out there. And when they get away, as a parent, when your child leaves home and suddenly you realize there might be an issue, or, you know, you just want to know what's available for that child and
Yeah.
what would be helpful.
And I also want to add too that once we do the evaluation and approve the equipment that is suggested in the evaluation, we don't stop there. We also authorize for the provider to go out and train the individual on how to use the equipment. So the rehab tech evaluation is a process itself, but we want to make sure that we're not just saying, here you go, this is what we think that will be helpful to you, but then you don't know how to properly use it to the best, to max it out, I should say, for lack of better words. So we do provide also those training hours for that provider to go out and train the individual on how to properly use the equipment that we provide.
I do see a question out there. Oh, go ahead, Tabitha. I'm sorry.
I was actually just about to answer that
Address that one.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, so Mary asked, would I be able to ask for assistance if we were to be in a college program at NKU, or would that be a problem because of different state? Definitely can ask for assistance. It does not matter what college you're going to. There are specific college to careers counselors for all of the public Ohio universities and community colleges, but if your child is going out of state or to a private school within Ohio, you would generally remain with the counselor that you may have been with for some time. It may require an extra level of coordination. Sometimes we can partner with other state vocational rehabilitation agencies. With NKU, I'm not sure that we would necessarily need to do that just because it's so close. But you can definitely ask for assistance. It would probably just require an extra level of coordination and thinking maybe a little more outside the box on our part.
And if, like you had mentioned, another vocational rehab in the state. So, like, each state has a type of OOD. They just may be a different name. It might be, the vocational rehab, or I see BVR, or different things. But could connect with, like, one of these, Racheal or Tabbatha would probably know the name of, if it would be different in a different state, if you're in Kentucky, Indiana, or a surrounding state.
And you are able to have a case in, say, Alabama and Ohio at the same time. We generally recommend, if you're going to be coming back to Ohio long term, make sure you stay in contact with your Ohio vocational rehabilitation counselor. If you are going to be moving permanently to another state, that's likely when we would really want to get you involved with that other state agency. Every state program is a little bit different, and how they run is a little bit different, but we are all here to help you at the end of the day.
Does that help, Mary? Yeah, okay. Great. Inez, I saw you. Do you have a question?
Yes. Thank you, Patty. You know, I'm
Uh,
getting ready when I start moving, right? Like I'm ready to ask questions. First of all, for parents are out there, I wanted to say that I've been through all the OD phases, and it's wonderful to know that we have access. I'm a military wife, so my question is kind of associated with when we come in and out, because we come to Wright Patterson here for 4 years and then we move out and sometimes we come back. And so my son did the pre-eds and just finished the summer work internship, which was great experience. I cannot tell you how it's timed so nicely, because I think the pre-eds really opened his mind, opened up the teen's mind. He started at 14, and he's just finished the summer work internship, which I think I never seen anybody get a check. He'd be like, "Oh my gosh, my first check in my whole life." So it's amazing that they have this opportunity to work and see their work and get a feedback from their work. But my question specifically is, like, I did not even know about the driving. So in your website, does it state the things that we can ask as a parent? Because I've never heard about even the driving assessment or the opportunity of you guys supporting us. That's my first question. If it is any information on the website, I don't think I saw that. And second is, once we move out of the state, which might happen to me, I don't want to because I want to be in Ohio forever. But if I do, when I come back, do we have to reinstate and go through the same process to be a client again?
Thank you for your questions. I would have to look and see if that is specifically stated on the website. I can tell you that if it were not, the reason being is that driving services are not something we generally do by themselves. We are able to do those in addition to other employment services, such as those pre-employment services, the summer youth work experience, job placement, and that specific service. We Unless it's for something like a very high-tech vehicle modification, we also want to be doing other things to prepare for employment, so we can do that in addition to, but never completely by itself. And as far as getting back in contact with the OD, if you guys were to leave the state, you do have to go through the same eligibility process if they were closed when you exited the state. However, I will say Ohio does have a fairly quick process as far as eligibility goes, especially if you've been made eligible with us before. We do have a program called expedited eligibility. So if you come into your intake with the documentation that is needed to move forward with that eligibility, I will say for me, most of the time, I have that information from my schools going into an intake. So if you have that and can provide that, we can likely go ahead and schedule your planning meeting for a few weeks, a month or so out. It depends on the counselor availability, but that process is made easier generally the second time because you've been made eligible before.
Sorry, I have one more question. You've been talking about the folks that are going to college. What about the folks that are doing like Project Search or Project Life? Can you just talk a little bit how it is the process after they finish that 1 year with those programs?
So I actually have had the opportunity to work with Project Life as well as Project Search in my current role. With Project Life, I know that the OOD counselors who are assigned to those sites will attend your life planning meetings, Project Search, your employment planning meetings. One of the big components of Project Search in particular is employment within 9 months of accepting your high school diploma. Job development is built into the structure of the program. So we're usually during that 1 year, we are starting to look at your actual job placement in March to May of that last year. Some individuals will start as early as March, some will start in April, May, with the goal of you being employed within a few months of graduation. I think in Warren County, of our 2 sites, I think we're down to like 1 or 2 people still in job development currently looking for employment based on those who graduated in May.
Sorry, the sun is back here. I thank you so much. I did not know that information. I think it's very hard for us that are in the military to really play, how we're gonna, you know, I always feel like I don't want to take advantage of taking a spot from somebody but we never know if we're gonna stay or leave. It's just always that curveball. But I did not know that that was the goal so soon after, Project Search to have that, months. So thank you so much. I really appreciate all that you guys do. Thank you.
I know as a parent, my son had done Project Life and Project Search, and then OOD attended like all of our sessions. Like every month they had like a meeting, like a board meeting with our son. And OOD was there. And then as he exited Project Search and the job came into play, then the job coach came into play. But the same thing, they waited till he was comfortable in that first job, and then the case would be closed. But keep in mind, their change, I think it was it Tabbatha or Racheal that said, they change with time. Our kids, what one job, they might want something a little more or a little less. It changes. So, I mean, I'm not sure how many times I've opened a case. My son's now in his 30s, but several times. So they've been always there to help with those changes.
I think that's a really good point, is that they do change over time. And most adults have multiple potential career paths in their lifetime, and that is the same for your children. So sometimes I have to remind the students I'm working with that the first job they accept is not the be all end all. It is not necessarily going to be the job that they want to work up until retirement, and to give themselves grace. If in a year they don't like the job, they can go look for another with our support.
Is there any other questions for Racheal or Tabbatha or Charlotte surrounding employment, going that transition, maybe your child's in high school right now, you know, how do you put that in the IEP? Is there any specific questions that you're looking at or dealing with or concerned about when you're making that transition? Let's see. Mary asked about what about doing life and search and then college?
Um, so that could potentially be possible. When they finish their senior year, if they wanted to do Project Life for a year or two, and then based on how old they are, then they could potentially do search also. And just as long as that all happens before their 22nd birthday. And I've seen before too where someone, if they maybe don't get into search, then Project Life is a good program to check into too, so might apply to both. And then definitely we can talk about supporting college if that's something they want to do after that.
Did that answer your question, Mary? So search to job could be a hold for college. Is that, I think she's asking.
Sorry, what was that?
It says, so search, what I'm assuming is project search to job could be a hold for college, is what she's asking about.
So like something to maybe do beforehand. Um, I mean, I would say so. I mean, project search, obviously, it's the last thing they would do because once search is done, then you have to accept your diploma. Um, work can happen at the same time. Typically, students that go to project search aren't necessarily working in the community because, project search is a job readiness program. So a lot of times that's more geared towards students who need that work experience, who maybe aren't ready for a job yet. Um, but if they finish search and they want to work and maybe later on go to college, and they can always come back later on and open up a case, and then they would work with a C2C counselor like what Charlotte is. They would work with one of our counselors if there was a college for careers counselor at that school. So it doesn't necessarily have to all be done in the same case.
Okay, yeah. She said okay. Um, yeah, it gets confusing because like your son or daughter, they get out and they start working and they might change their mind. They're going to change their mind a lot, believe me. So having being able to open or shut a case, like, that's very helpful in the sense as your child, progresses through, because what they might have thought they want to do a year from now, it might be a totally different goal for them or a totally different topic that they want to pursue.
Yeah, and like Tabby mentioned a little bit ago that, our eligibility process is relatively fast, especially with the expedited eligibility. So, sometimes someone might be hesitant to close a case because then it's like, well, we'll have to start over again. And, we have to start over again in the fact that we have to do another intake and go through eligibility. But especially when they've had a case before, we can pull some of that information from their prior case and kind of just speed on through that process. So it's never an issue to open a case again.
We are applying to college programs as a backup in case Project Life Search falls through. That was Mary. Yeah.
I also, there's also some of the programs at colleges like the Tartan Tops, like the Tops and the TAPS programs. And I don't remember if those were talked about at the beginning because I had a little technical difficulty, but um those are also great programs, for individuals who are interested in college but not sure if it's, a good idea. Then, Tartan Tops or, the TAPS program at Cincinnati. The only thing, that I try to make sure to mention is that OOD as of now cannot financially support those programs. So, if those are an option, I always encourage, students to apply for financial aid. We can talk about financially supporting college if it's, a good fit and it's a goal that OOD is supporting, but definitely we can't financially support, like Tartan Tops, but we can still keep their case open and provide like other supports while they're going to one of those programs.
We will have one of our guest speakers in October. It's October 15th. We'll be looking at post-secondary education and have some colleges here talking as well. What's it like on campus? What do we need to know as families? So we'll be talking about some of that too next month. So this is not just tonight, but we'll be talking about it in the future as well. Is there any other questions? I also have Andrea Harker. She's from the local county board of developmental disabilities. Because that topic of, like Mary mentioned, what happens with, and, Tabitha and Racheal had talked about, with, Project Life and Search and then your choices. But I also have Andrea on here. She's a employment with employment navigation with the Montgomery County Board of DD. So I wanted to give her a moment just to address that as well. Andrea, if you
Yeah, thank you, Patty. There's been a lot of great information tonight. Thank you for everybody that shared everything about your agency or just experiences. I know everything is different county, person to person, but it's just been great information. First of all, I just put something in the chat box a few minutes ago. Montgomery County Developmental Disability Services, we're going to be putting on a community resource fair next Tuesday, October 1st at Sinclair Community College. We're going to have over 80 vendors. We're going to have a lot of providers talking about people providing services as well as different community services. I do know that we have a couple of booths where we're going to have people talking about Project Life and Project Search. This could just specifically be for Montgomery County. I'm not entirely clear on where the Project Search or the Project Lives are coming from, but that is something that if you guys are going to be within, or families are going to be within Montgomery County or down at Sinclair next week, it's a great fair to learn more about a variety of resources. As far as adding anything, Patty, I know I do a lot of work with school students, getting them ready for employment. And I encourage, one of the big things I encourage with my students is volunteer work. And if you're volunteering in junior high or high school, keep track of that volunteer work. Those are things that you can share with your OOD counselor or your transition coordinator. Hey, I volunteered at my church. Hey, I volunteered at, a food bank for something, whether it be a couple of years ago, but just different volunteer experiences are things that can lead to a job, for a job or for the success of a job. So I always encourage all of my students to try to volunteer somewhere because that leads to great job skills and something to put on a resume. But Patty, I did add my email address in the chat box if there's anybody from Montgomery County on here that has questions. And really at this point, I think that's all I have to add unless you have questions for me.
Does anybody have any more questions for Andrea or have any? I do recommend if you can't quite grab that information that she shared there in the chat, just let us know and we can send it to you. But I really always strongly recommend parents attending these resource fairs. When COVID hit, it kind of like eliminated a lot of this. Now it's starting to come back, and I will strongly recommend visiting each table. I'm assuming OOD might be there as well. Will you guys have a table at the fair, or do you know?
Yes, Patty.
Yeah,
OOD,
okay.
I have a table.
Okay. So they all work together. Like, the county boards will work with OOD, whatever county you're in. So they all kind of work together to help create this successful transition. Go around to each table. If you get, Andrea mentioned 80 vendors. Go and pick their brain. I'm always asking questions going up, well, what about this or what about that? So it is a great time to be face to face with some of these organizations and really talk about your concerns or where you're at. If you don't know what to ask, maybe just express your concern. Our child doesn't know what they want to do. We're in 11th grade and they don't know what they want to do. Just start talking to these different organizations and they kind of help with those areas that are gray right now or the undecided areas, help get that direction going and seeing what your child, the assessments was mentioned and just trying to get an idea of what maybe their interests are. They have the questions to ask. So,
One
go
thing I
ahead.
did just want to mention, there is no wrong time to get connected with OOD. As long as you're 14, we will provide you whatever services are needed to get your child ready for employment. I will say the sooner the better. While there is no wrong time, there are more things we can do the earlier that we get connected with your child. The pre-employment services in particular are specific to those under the age of 22 who are enrolled in secondary education. So just feel free to get connected with us as soon as you would like to. There's just a lot we can do to support your child.
Great, thank you. I also want to mention before with the resource fair, that we will have a SALT table there, and Inez is going to be my parent that's going to be there. She'll be there. You can say hi to her and ask about her situation, what she's going through. And it's always helpful to talk to another parent. Always helpful. So yeah, we'll have all of our information there. And you can say hi to Inez. Yeah. So is there any questions or anything else you want to bring up? Does anybody have any questions at all? It's a good time to ask. What I might do is I might close the recording. So if you want to raise your hand or if you don't want to type and you didn't want to, speak while the recording's going, I'll turn off the recording for a few minutes and you can have an open discussion. So 1 second, before I shut it down, but I wanted to thank you, Racheal and Charlotte and Tabbatha for speaking tonight. It was great. It's great to learn about these services because it's so helpful when you know. You may not exactly know how to use them, but you know they're there and you can ask them, hey, when do I do this or when do I do that? Or, this is a concern. Do I talk to you or who do I talk to? They will know who to talk to. So let me go ahead and close this recording, and then you can open up and you can ask questions if you need to. 1 second. And thank you again for coming. Okay.